Well, driver simulators are basically like a little car that you sit in, that you can shift the gears and turn it on and the lights and everything else. But you're watching a monitor and the road is coming through you over the monitor or over the TV. So if there's something in front of you, you need to hit the brake or hit the gas or steer around it. Now, with that in mind, these simulators are set up to also teach about distracted driving. And distracted driving is anything from using your cell phone to texting to eating a sandwich, putting on makeup, whatever it is. If it takes your eyes off the road, your mind off the road, your hands off the wheel, or basically your attention off what you're supposed to be doing, which is driving, then it can be a distraction. So imagine driving on this simulator down this street, and all of a sudden you receive a phone call. And you pick up your cell phone and suddenly you run into the back of somebody, because in those 2 or 3 seconds that it took for you to grab your phone, you covered maybe 40, 50 yards. As a matter of fact, at 55 miles an hour, 4 seconds is the same as a football field. So in this case, this system is set up to help teach young folks, especially about distracted driving.
Okay, at the Sioux Empire Safety Village, why did you find it so important to have driving simulators in the Sioux Empire region?
Well, sometimes it's safer to practice some of the basic rules of the road and driving skills without really being behind the wheel. And I know even when I was in high school forever ago, we had driver simulators in the room, and we actually learned how to steer and shift gears and learn the rules of the road. They haven't been used in the schools in South Dakota for a number of years, but we found that statistically, well, according to a lot of the studies, it's a very good way to teach young people about driving skills. Or as the other case that we work with is immigrants and refugees who don't have a lot of reference for driving. So these simulators are purchased by Renli Motor Cars to be used to teach young folks specifically about distracted driving.
When will the driving simulators be available for groups to utilize?
I think that probably we won't actually see them available generally until the middle of the summer. We're going to start working with them here in the next week or two, learning how to run them, doing some curriculum and some lesson planning and things like that. Then we'll have some smaller private groups that we'll work with to make sure that what we think is working is really working. The first debut public will probably be at the Sioux Empire Fair in August the 9th through the 15th. Students will be able to sign up for time to come in and use them. And then after that in the fall, I'm sure they'll be out quite a bit at schools and different places around as people come to learn about them.
Okay. Now you had talked about distracted driving earlier. Are there any other programs that these simulators will be focusing on?
Yes, actually there's another component program on there that's about impaired driving. And of course impaired driving could be legal or illegal drugs, it could be alcohol, anything that alters your ability to think. So the machine actually simulates the response time changes for those who are intoxicated in one way or another. And it shows you what happens when you're maybe not in complete control of things. It could be anything from crashing or frankly, you could get pulled over for, quote, the DUI on the screen if you were weaving and things like that. We're real excited to have these programs in town. We're really thankful that our partner, Renli Motor Cars, is willing to help us with this.
Now, you had talked about earlier about them being available to groups in the midsummer. How or what kind of method of transportation is going to be utilized to get the simulators from one location to another?
At this point, there are 2 simulators, and they fit in a trailer. and they'll be able to be moved around behind a vehicle to another site, then offloaded into a stable and secure area. And then we'll instruct, or we'll do in-services for those people who will teach it at the various points. So for instance, if Brandon Valley Schools wanted to use them, we might bring them to Brandon, we might set them up, instruct a few of their instructors, then come back later and pick them up. And there may be a charge for the transportation in that, but we're still working that out.
Okay. One last question that I have, and that pertains to your target audience. Who is that?
Primarily, the target audience are the 14 to 18-year-old drivers. Statistically, they have the least amount of experience. Maybe not that they're bad drivers, they may be good drivers, they just don't have the experience. You know, if you want to learn how to jump rope, you got to jump rope. If you want to get better at it, you got to jump rope. And in this case, the young 14 to 18-year-olds have the least amount of experience. Statistically, 14 and 15 and 16 have more crashes per 1,000 drivers than any other group in the country. So by the time they get to 17 and 18, their crash rates are going down. But then what we're seeing is something else interesting. 17 and 18, we start to see the impaired driving going up. We don't see the impaired driving going up with the 14, 15s, and 16s, but it does start to creep up on the 17s and 18s. So as a package, that's the target audience. Now, we expect there'll be a lot of parents who will be watching over their shoulders or finding out about it also. So thank you.